Alright, today we're going to work on solving linear equations. So real quickly I'm going to just tell you the basic steps for solving linear equations. The first thing you want to do is simplify each side of the equation. So you're going to look to the left of the equal sign and do this process, and you're going to look to the right of the equal sign and do this process. Some of the things that are most common in simplifying each side is distributing and combining like terms. So those are the main things you'll be doing to simplify each side of the equation. The next step is you want the variable on only one side of the equation. So if you got the variable on both sides of the equation, you need to add or subtract to get rid of the variable on one of those sides. We only want the variable on one side of the equation. And then you're going to get the variable by itself. So once you got the variable in one place, you want to get that variable all by itself. If it's x, you want x is equal to something. So you don't want 2x is equal to something. You want x all by itself. So to do that, you're going to move the constant. Constant is just a number. So if there's a number all by itself, if you got, let's say, 7x plus 2, the constant in that situation would be the 2. You would need to move that. Since 2 is being added to x, we do the opposite operation and we'll subtract 2. Once you do that, you can multiply or divide to finish getting x by itself. So then, once you got rid of the 2 by subtracting that, you would need to get rid of the 7. And since x is being multiplied by 7, we'll divide by 7. You always do the opposite operation to get rid of something. So those are the basic steps we'll go through in solving these linear equations. Let's go ahead and try a few examples. Alright, so looking at number 1 here. Going through the process. First step, simplify each side of the equation. So I look to the left side of the equation. Is there anything I can do to simplify that? No. Look to the right side of the equation. Anything I can do to simplify the right side of the equation? No. Okay, get the variable on one side. Well, I see x on the left side of the equation. I do not see x on the right side of the equation. So that's already done for me. So the next step is to get the variable by itself. Now the only thing I see on the same side of the equation as x is the 5. I want to get rid of that 5. Anytime I want to get rid of something, I do the opposite operation of what's currently going on. So right now that 5 is being added to x, so the opposite of addition is subtraction. I'm going to subtract 5 because 5 minus 5 is 0, so that's gone. So all I have left over here on this side now is x. Now anytime I do an operation on one side of an equation, I got to do the same operation on the other side. So 21 minus 5, 16. And there's our solution. Notice we skipped a lot of steps, but I got to just process through those in my head and make sure I'm good before I move on. And the better you get at these, the faster you'll go, and you can skip those things pretty fast. Okay, simplify both sides of the equation. Left side of the equation, simplified already. Right side of the equation, simplified already. Get the variable on one side. Variables on the left side of the equation, no variables on the right side of the equation, so it's already only on one side. Now we want to get the variable by itself. Only thing I see on the same side of the equation right now is 32. Okay, now this can be a little tricky. A lot of people see the subtraction sign and think, oh, I'm going to add. But the 32 is not being subtracted from r. R is being subtracted from 32. I could rewrite this if I wanted to as negative r plus 32. That would be the exact same thing. Now I don't need to rewrite it, but I just need y'all to understand that those are the exact same thing. So the 32 is a positive 32. It's being added to the situation. If I want to get rid of that 32, I've got to subtract 32. 32 minus 32 is 0. It's gone. Now when I rewrite this, I got to keep that sign though. We didn't do anything to get rid of that. Now if I do an operation on one side, I do the same thing to the other side. So we got 16 minus 32 is a negative 16. Now, we're still not done because r is not completely by itself. We've got this negative sign in front of r. I got to get rid of that. Now, anytime you do not have a number in front of your variable, it's understood to be 1. Like right here, this is x. Well, how many x's is that? Well, that's 1x. Well, right here, this would be negative 1r. So I'm going to treat this like r is being multiplied by negative 1. So to get rid of that, I would divide by negative 1. We always do the opposite operation to get rid of something. So r is being multiplied by negative 1, I divide by negative 1. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is 1r, which we just write as r. And a negative 16 divided by negative 1 is a positive 16. Negative divided by negative is positive. And there is our solution. Okay, once again on number 3, both sides of the equation are already simplified. The variable is already only on one side. I just need to get the variable by itself. Right now n is being multiplied by 1/4. So if I want to get rid of that 1/4, opposite operation. N's being multiplied by 1/4, I'm going to divide by 1/4. And that will get n all by itself. Now if you do it on one side, you got to do it on the other side. Now if you're using a calculator, you can just do 12 divided by 1/4. You'll need to make sure you put the 1/4 in parentheses so it does it in the proper order. Okay, 12 divided by 1/4, 48. Let's say you don't have a calculator. You might remember that when you divide by a fraction, it's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So if you don't have a calculator, you would flip your fraction to get the reciprocal and you would multiply by that. Well, 1/4 would become 4/1, which is just 4. And 12 times 4 is 48. So depending on what you got to use, you can do that either way, but your solution should be 48. All right, number 4. Left side of the equation is already simplified. Right side of the equation is already simplified. Variable is already on one side, so we're just getting the variable all by itself. Now here we have two different things on the same side of the equation as x to get rid of. The order that we get rid of them in is important. Remember, when we're getting the variable by itself, we first have to move the constant, and then we'll worry about getting rid of the other number. So right here, this is the constant. It is the number that is a number that does not change. It's constant. It stays the same. This is a variable. It changes. It can be something one time and something different another time. So this number is attached to the variable. This number is a constant. It's all by itself. That's always going to be -2 or -2. So get rid of this first. 2 is being subtracted from x, so we do the opposite operation and we add 2. That -2 plus 2 is 0. That's gone, so all we have left is the 7x. And then a -37 plus 2 is a -35. Now we want to get rid of this 7. X is being multiplied by 7, so we do the opposite operation and we divide by 7. Anytime you do it on one side, do it on the other side. -35 divided by 7, -5. There's the solution. Alright, number 5. Left side of the equation is not simplified this time. One of the things we have to do to make sure everything's simplified is to combine like terms. Remember, like terms are when you have the same variable with the same exponent. So right here, this is b to the first power, and this is b to the first power. So those are like terms, and they can be combined. So I'm going to combine those. So if you have 10 b's, and you take away 6 b's, what do you got? 10 minus 6 is 4, so you have 4 b's. And then finish rewriting the rest of the equation here. Now the left side of the equation is simplified. The right side of the equation was already simplified. We want to make sure the variable is only on one side. It is only on one side. And so then we want to get it by itself. When we get it by itself, we have to first move the constant. The constant is the 3. It's being subtracted from b, so to get rid of it, we do the opposite operation, and we will add 3. So that'll get rid of the -3. We just have 4b on this side. On the other side, we have 9 plus 3 is 12. And b is still not by itself. To get b by itself, we got to get rid of the 4. b is being multiplied by 4, so we'll do the opposite operation and divide by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Alright, number 6. Left side of the equation is not simplified yet. This is our first example of distributing. Notice the parentheses here. All of x plus 3 is being multiplied by 5. To make that happen, we have to distribute that multiplication. We need to make sure that the 5 multiplies times the x, and the 5 also multiplies times the 3. This is called distributing. 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 3 is 15. So now the left side of the equation is simplified. The right side of the equation was already simplified. The variables only on one side, no variables on this side. So let's focus on getting the variable by itself. Again, got to get rid of the constant first. The 15 is the constant. It's being added to x, so we're going to do the opposite operation and subtract it. 15 minus 15 is 0. It's gone. All we have left on this side now is 5x. Do something on one side, then you got to do it on the other. Negative 30 minus 15 is a negative 45. And x is being multiplied by 5. So to get rid of the 5, we will divide by 5, because multiplication and division are opposite operations. So negative 45 divided by 5 is a negative 9. All right, two more examples. All right, add a few more steps to these here. Number 7, left side of the equation is already simplified. There's no like terms to combine, no distributing to do. Right side of the equation already simplified, no like terms to combine, no distributing. Now this is our first time, however, where the variable is on both sides of the equation. You can't get x is equal to a number when x is on both sides of the equation. So got to get rid of one of these. Now you can get rid of whichever one you want, and as long as you do it correctly, you'll get the right answer. Okay? My personal preference is I always get rid of the smaller number. So we got 5x and we got negative 2x. Negative 2 is a smaller number. So I'm going to get rid of this one. And the reason I do that is because every time you get rid of the smaller one, you end up with a positive number in front of x. You end up with a positive coefficient. If I get rid of the larger number, we're going to end up with a negative number in front of x. So I just prefer positives over negatives when I have the choice. So that's the way I do it. So I want to get rid of the negative 2x. To do that, we do the opposite operation. Instead of a negative 2x, instead of subtracting 2x, we're going to add 2x. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. It's gone. So all that's left on this side of the equation now is the 28. If I do it on one side, I got to make sure I do it on the other side. So 5x plus 2x is 7x. Bring down the minus 21. And here's our equation again, but now our variable is only on one side of the equation. Now we can focus on getting the variable all by itself. First, we'll move the constant. The 21 is the constant. It's being subtracted. So we do the opposite, and we'll add 21. Then we want to get rid of the 7. X is being multiplied by 7. Opposite of multiplication is division. So we divide by 7. And 49 divided by 7 is 7. And there's our solution. Alright, last one, number 8. First step, left side of the equation is not simplified. We got some simplifying to do here. Notice the parentheses here, n plus 4 is being multiplied by a negative 2. So first step is distributing. So I'm just going to write this down again. And in here, I'm distributing. I need to make sure I keep the sign with the 2. So it's negative 2 times n and negative 2 times 4. And then I'm just rewriting the rest of the equation. Now the left side of the equation is still not simplified. We did our distributing, but if you check it again, we now have like terms to combine. Into the first power, into the first power. Those are like terms. I can put those together. So a negative 3 minus 2 is a negative 5n. And then I'm rewriting everything else in the equation. After every step, I always rewrite the equation and go from there. Alright, now both sides of the equation are simplified, but we have our variable on both sides of the equation. Got to get rid of one of those. Which one's smaller, negative 5 or negative 6? Negative 6 is a smaller number, so I'm going to get rid of that. So because it's a negative 6n, I'm going to add 6n. That will give me 0 n's on this side of the equation. So I bring this down. Don't forget the sign in front of it. We didn't do anything to get rid of it. It's still there. We added 6n on this side, then we got to add 6n on this side. So a negative 5 plus 6 is a positive 1. So you got 1n. And then bring down the negative 8. Alright, so we got n on one side of the equation. Now we want to get n all by itself. Only thing on the same side of the equation as n is this 8. It's being subtracted from n. So we're going to do the opposite operation to get rid of it. Opposite of subtraction is addition. That'll get rid of the 8. Do it on one side, then I got to do it on the other. Negative 5 plus 8 is 3.